Hey all, today I am here with a new interview, this time with Jonny Manak of Manak Skates and Jonny Manak and the Depressives. Jonny is a maker, a skater, a musician, and all-around really cool guy, widely recognized in the DIY board building community from his online presence and YouTube videos. Jonny has also been featured on the Braille Skateboarding YouTube channel. I was excited to get to know Jonny a bit more, and I hope you enjoy my interview with Jonny Manak. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Start? Cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be looking this way every now and then to just check on the stream, but looks like we're going good. So Jonny, welcome to this interview, and
thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for making the time. I'm excited to ask you a bunch of these questions. And
you are?
I am. I feel like I know you way more than I actually know you because you have such a strong presence in the online community, and I've been.
I feel like I know you. I feel like I know you more than I know you because when I started making boards, I watched all your damn videos.
Awesome. Then you probably do know me enough then. Anyways, the first question is I just want to get started with is like you clearly are an awesome skater. So it's cool to see someone that makes boards that also just like shreds and is awesome at skating them. So like how'd you get into skating from the beginning?
You really know how to make a girl blush, huh?
Yeah.
You got a better tray flip than me, though. I got to hand it on. You got a tray double and a 540, I think, if I don't remember correctly.
That was back when I was skating a 7.5. When I was skating.
Yeah, that's the key, huh?
Yeah, and the tray double was actually I only got it switch. I've never done one regular. It was switch.
Oh, poor
day.
you.
It was a weird
poor you.
Thing.
Switch. Oh man, cry me a river.
Whatever. I can't skate transition for the life of me. So
it's never too late. I started skating. I found a skateboard in the garage, and it was one of those plastic banana boards. Actually, I have one hanging. Somebody went and found one for me and gave it to me as a gift, just like, you know, as a keepsake. But I found that in my garage, and I started going down the driveway, and the big trick of the day was if you could make that turn at the bottom onto the sidewalk. But our at the bottom of our sidewalk, we had one of those gorse bushes. I think that's what it's called. They're really prickly. And if your tennis ball would go in there playing as a kid, like it was gone. Like you wouldn't even reach your hand in there. And I think that was like 1982 or 83. I don't know. I was like first, second grade, but I would butt board. And then kids in the neighborhood started getting those pig boards, like the Santa Cruz and Powell boards with the big wheels that were like split down the center, different color. I think they were called Sim City Streets, but like the boards just looked super cool, and they were like 10 inches wide, no nose, and they had every piece of plastic you could imagine on those boards. And I was just like, whoa. And I'd look down at my piece of plastic, like board with like loose bearings. There weren't even like the sealed bearings. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like a whole other realm. So they would ride around the neighborhood and make my board and whatever. They were a little older, you know, 1 or 2 years older back then was a big deal. And then my uncle took me to see Back to the Future. And that was it, dude. I saw Marty McFly going off curves and holding on to cars, and he plays guitar, and he listens to Chuck Berry, and he gets the girl and drives the DeLorean. I was just like, I want that. And so that was like the moment where I fell in love with like rock and roll, you know, like Chuck Berry and skateboarding. So on the way home, we stopped at Toys R Us, and I saw a board that looked like the ones of the kids in the neighborhood. And I think it was like a Nash Executioner or something, but that was $40. And the one that had no graphic, and it was basically a wooden banana board. I think it was called like the Tough Tail. And there's no graphic on the bottom. It's just like natural wood grain. And the top, it said Nash, like in the grip tape. It almost looked like they poured adhesive and then sprinkled sand and wherever there was adhesive, it left the graphic. And so it said Nash with two suns on like the nose and tail. So I got that and brought it home. I was like, yeah, dude, I'm a skater. And the kids still were like, that's not a skateboard, dude. But that was what sparked it, seeing Back to the Future. The funny thing is my first board sponsor was the stunt double in Back to the Future. So the guy that was doing the skating, Bob Schmelzer at Circle A, and Per Willander, they like traded off. And I want to say one's goofy and one's regular. So go back and watch Back to the Future 1 and see if there's like a goofy foot and a regular foot. But Bob ended up sponsoring me, and he told me that he was the stunt double for Marty McFly. And I was like, what a weird like twist of events, right? This guy
so wild.
Got me into skateboarding without realizing it. And then, I don't know, 15 years later, he's asking me to ride for his company, which I never would have skateboarded had I not seen him skateboarding as Marty McFly. You know what I mean? That's some weird.
So wild.
That's weird. Yeah. That's my short, long answer.
That's sweet. Hang on, there's like two dots, and there's like, I just need those connected a little bit better. So you started watching Back to the Future. So how'd you get sponsored? Like, what was that? So 15 years later, you got sponsored? Like, hang on, like Phil.
Well, it's sponsored by. Yeah, I mean, I had shop sponsors, you know, and they would like either give you free boards, and they'd pay for like my amateur contests. Like we had Castle up here in Northern California Amateur Skateboard League. So when I was like 16 or 17, the friends I was skating with, they're like, hey, we're going to this Castle contest on Saturday. And I'm like, what's that? I'm like, oh, it's so cool. Like we get a hotel and we skate a skate park, because back in the mid 90s, there wasn't many skate parks. We skated ledges and like 3 stairs and 5-stair handrails and curbs and stuff and like gaps. Like we didn't have tranny. No one had a ramp. So like the Castle contest would be like once a month for like half a year in different cities throughout Northern California. So that was like the one time we could skate transitions. And I would go out to those contests, and they weren't cheap. I mean, it would be like $100, $125 to enter. Then you got gas. You know, we didn't have jobs. Gas to drive like 3-4 hours each way, sometimes 7 hours. Because like finals would be down in like Ventura at Skate Street or at the Skate Lab in Simi Valley. And then a hotel. And then, you know, someone in the contest would be 21, and they'd buy beers, and we'd all hide in one Motel 6 room and like share a 40, you know? But that stuff kind of added up. So like I went to a local skate shop and said, hey, I'll ride for you, but all I want in return is like boards at cost and pay for my Castle contest. And that was a head shop in Fremont called the Rock Shop, the Rock Stop. And so I rode for them. Then I rode for another skate shop in town called The Station. And the only reason I went there is because they said, we'll give you free boards, free wheels, shoes at cost, and we'll pay for all your contests. First contest I entered riding for that stupid shop, dude. They didn't reimburse me on anything. I was like, screw you guys. And then at that time, Circle A just started opening up their skate shop. It used to be a board brand in the late 80s. And a friend of mine's like, hey, my friend Bob's opening a skate shop in downtown San Jose. He asked me to come down and help him paint like board racks. You want to come with me? I'm like, ooh, new skate shop. Like, totally, I want to go. And so I showed up and met him and hung out with him, and he showed me how to use a jigsaw, and he's like, all right, just cut on this line. And we were cutting out our own like board racks to put the boards horizontal in the skate shop. And we just got to talking, and he's like, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to help with the shop? Like we were fast friends, like right away. And I was like, oh, I can't. I have this Castle contest I'm going to. And he's like, oh yeah? What shop are you entering under? And I was like, oh, I don't have a shop sponsor right now. My last one burned me. They didn't pay for anything. And he's all, where's the contest? And I was like, it's in Santa Rosa, which is like 2 hours north. And he's like, oh, okay. Kid you not, dude. I show up to practice at like 10 a.m. I drove 2 hours, got to the contest. I'm in my heats warm-ups, and here comes Bob walking up with a brand new Circle A shirt, and he hands it to me, and he goes, put this on. You're riding for Circle A today. And he goes to the person at the thing, and he's like, I'm paying Manak's, entry fee. And I was just like, oh my God. Because the night before I found out he was the guy from Back to the Future. I'd never met this guy before, But sidebar here, I found a T-shirt from my 3rd grade school class picture, and it was a Bob Schmelzer Madrid T-shirt.
What?
So I was wearing his pro T-shirt because the local skate shop had like shirts, right? And so I wanted to look like a skater, so I'd buy whatever shirts look cool. And it's like Madrid team 84. It's all Bryce Knight. It's Bob Schmelzer, like has all the names, Joe Lopes or whatever. I think it's Joe Lopes, whatever. But then I bought another one. It was just his graphic. So I totally forgot that name. But after I met him, I went back and I'm like, dude, look at this. This is my 3rd grade like school picture, the year I started skating, and I'm wearing your shirt. I didn't know you were the guy from Back to the Future. Now I'm writing, dude. It's weird, right?
That's
so I ended up getting 2nd place in that contest, and he printed that shirt just for me for the contest. He didn't have shirts, but he screen printed. He set up the screens for one shirt and gave me that. And so like I cherish that shirt, dude. I was like, no one had ever made a shirt just for me, right? And he's like, I got like the 2nd place trophy. I still have it over here somewhere. I'm like, dude, I got 2nd. He's all, you also got a new sponsor. And I was all, what? He's all, yeah, you're on the team. Hey, you also work at the skate shop. So I got a job at the skate shop, and that's how I met a lot of people working at that skate shop. I learned a lot about the industry. I learned a lot about what people were doing right in the industry and what people were doing wrong. I learned about where stuff was made, who was making stuff where. I started getting shop flow from different factory sponsors because Bob vouched for me, and Bob knew all the owners of all those companies. And when they would call to like get orders from us, like, hey, how many think boards do you want? If you buy 12, I'll send a 13th for Jonny. And Bob was like, hell yeah, because that was one less board he had to give me, right?
Yeah.
And then Bob restarted the skateboard company, and right around that time, I ended up like leaving Circle A. We had like a fallout, and like it was to the point where I had a box of shoes in my hand, and we were like bickering. We lived together. We were just like in each other's fucking, face all day long, right? I was the shop manager. I was like, it was almost like Mr. Burns and Smithers. I was Smithers. And I just snapped, dude. And I was like, I'm fucking out. And I threw the shoes down, and I went home, and that was the last time I worked for him. But we're still like bros now.
Okay.
But what was funny was one of the flows was this guy Brent Callahan, who became like one of my biggest mentors, and he worked at a company called System Skateboard Distribution that had their own wood shop. Okay. And they made boards Supernaut, Trust, Death Skateboards. It was originally pressed out of there before it moved to another distribution. And the Unbelievers, which was Scott Bourne and Jeremy Fish. They also had a bearing company called Halo's Bearings. So I called Brent because he was flowing me Halos. Like anytime we'd order Halos, I'd get a little package. There'd be like a little bag with like a post-it like for Jonny with a heart. Like the dude is the biggest sweetheart I've ever met. Well, I walked out of the skate shop. I went to my house and I called Brent, and I'm all, Brent, it's Manak. You hiring? And he's all, actually, I just got out of a meeting. We were talking about bringing on a sales rep. How are you on over the phone sales? I was all, I've never done it, but you can teach me. And so that's where I really learned about board construction, because I was selling boards over the phone. I was calling skate shops. Hey, it's Jonny from System Skateboard Distribution. Can I speak to the shop buyer? I was the shop buyer before. That's why I got all the flow. So I learned that trick. So I'd be like, hey, check it out. Check it out. You order, a case of Halo's bearings, and I'll make sure, your best team rider gets 2 pairs in every order. What that did was it also was like Johnny Appleseed of Halo's bearings, right? So the rippingest kid on the team is now getting free bearings. I'd send him a beanie. The reason I would send hats and beanies is because you wear a hat and beanie every day. You wear a shirt once a laundry cycle. So then I later, and then I later got sponsored by Sessions Clothing from skating in the Tim Brosh contest. I met the team manager, and I was like, hey, I love Sessions, and he's like, you do good in the contest tomorrow, we'll talk. And so I skated in the contest, and I did really well. and they put me on the team and took me on tour and stuff. I later ended up working for Sessions in the event coordinating department. And so I would go in, I'd get emails all day from people like, hey, my snowboard club at my college is looking for donations for our event. Hey, my whatever, right? Yeah. So I'd go talk to Joel Gomez, badass dude. I'd go into his office and be like, hey, Joel, so there's this skateboard contest in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and they want stuff. And he's like, 4 sticker packs. How many people are going to be there? I don't know, about 300. 4 sticker packs, case of mesh hats, 2 hoodies. And he taught me a hoodie you wear every day, mesh hats. They cost us $5. He's like, always mesh hats. Always, 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 always mesh hats. Because I wore one of those Sessions mesh hats. It was like glued to my head. It was like part of my identity. When you know when you find that one hat you love.
Oh yeah.
So when I would get packages from Sessions, there'd be like a box of mesh hats in there because it became like my identity on the team. Right, I'm the guy with the Sessions mesh hat. So that taught me a lot when I started my brand and working at Systems. On my lunch breaks, I'd go into the wood shop and ask the old guys in there. They were cabinet makers. They were furniture makers. They basically Sonic Skateboards, when they needed a wood shop, found this place in Pinole, California that made spinning jennies and stuff. It's for like spinning yarn.
Okay.
And they went to him and said, hey, we want you to make skateboards. And so they set up a wood shop just basically so Sonic could have a local wood shop, their own proprietary wood shop. So me being the sales guy, I want to know why our boards are better, and I want to know what makes them better, and I want to know what the other people are doing, because like I just love learning stuff. So I'd spend every lunch break in the wood shop and just ask 100 questions. I probably annoyed the crap out of them. But when I started, making boards, I knew, more about the importance of moisture content, the importance of temperature control, the importance of longer press times, longer cure times, the importance of how heat transfers introduce heat, which wood doesn't like, introduces bending nanotubes when it goes through. Because I remember we had a heat transfer press, and on some of the steeper concaves, sometimes you'd hear like some weird noises coming out of the board when it went through.
That's wild.
So that's your answer to how I got sponsored. But later I ended up writing for board companies. Two of them put names on my name on the board. Just, I think it's because I played in rock bands, and they're like, who cares if he's like good or not? He's getting his name out there. I was really good about promoting my sponsors and always like wearing stuff. Like some of my team riders, they'll be wearing like anti-hero shirts and skating my boards and then sending me a photo to use for something. I'm like, dude, every time I get a new sponsor, if it was like a new clothing sponsor or a new board sponsor, first thing I did was I went into my closet, I took all those clothes, I put them in a box and gave them to somebody, and then I filled my closet with my new sponsors. And I always made sure, like right now, I'm wearing an Old Bones Therapy shirt. Shout out Old Bones. That's my only sponsor right now, I think. And it's because of my...
It's because of what?
Yeah, because of my band. They use my music in all their commercials.
Oh, no way.
That's sweet.
That's sweet.
And so like I found out I wrote for them because they tagged in like one of their Instagram commercials, like music by Old Bones team writer Jonny Manak, band Jonny Manak and the Depressives. And I call Brandon, I'm all, this is the weirdest way I've ever found out I had a sponsor. So look, I'm wearing his shirt instead of a Manak skate shirt right now. That's the kind of guy I am. So like when my writers don't do that, it kind of trips me out. I'm like, dude, seriously? Like, I can't use a photo of you wearing a Creature shirt with an anti-hero hat on one of my boards. Like, that makes no sense.
Right. Yeah, that's.
But I don't do anything more than just say, hey, like I really can't use this.
Yeah.
I don't tell them they have to. I want them to want to, like I did when I was growing up. Like I wanted to rep, and I wanted to get rid of the clothes of people that didn't. The only logos I wore were ones that were hooking me up.
Yeah. Because
I was proud. I was proud to wear that logo. Like totally. I ride for them.
Yeah.
So it's a trip, just different generation.
Yeah. So going off that, I wasn't expecting to connect the dots with that. I guess, new dots, continuing off that dot analogy. But you mentioned, I didn't know that you had like such close ties with a wood shop. So how did you, like, when did you start making boards, and how did you transition, or not, I guess not even transition, but how did you introduce board building into your life?
So me and my son went skating, and we got rained out. And this was like November of 2019, right before the pandemic. And we got to the house, and I was like, what are we going to do? And I said, I want to show you this movie that like I used to watch when I was a kid that I think you'll like. It's really cool. It's called The North Shore. And he's like, what? And I'm like, it's super funny. This white dude from like Arizona or New Mexico goes to Hawaii. Everyone calls him a haole and a kook, and they pick on him. And then, you know, it's like the Romeo and Juliet thing where like he's not allowed to date the island girl, and he gets his ass kicked all the time by like the island dudes. And there's this one guy in there, Turtle. He's like Spicoli. He's like the coolest. And he shapes boards, like surfboards.
Okay.
So we're watching it, and I look at my son. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to be like the Turtle of skateboard shaping? Like I can't see myself making surfboards. Like I'm not into fiberglass. I've never been surfing. It's ironic. I play surf guitar, surf band. I've never. And so I told my son, I was like, that'd be cool, dude. Like I want to be the Turtle of skateboards. And I kid you not, I looked down at my phone. I'm just scrolling through Facebook, and in one of like the old dudes, you know, like forums, the skater forums, someone's like, check out this mold I just made out of concrete to press skateboards. And I was like, this is too weird. I'm just talking about how like, wouldn't it be cool? And then I saw how accessible it was. I had no idea you could do that. So my father-in-law, who I affectionately call Dad, he's like he's more a dad than any dad I've ever had. He's like my best friend. He's a mason. So I took a screen grab and I texted him, and I'm all, hey Dad, can you make this? And he like calls me and he's laughing. He's like, dude, that's just a form in concrete, man. Of course I can make that. So then we went down the YouTube rabbit hole, dude, and watched your vids and watched any vid we could find about how to build a press, how to make a mold, how to shape a board, how to glue. We watched everything, dude, for 8 hours a day. It seemed like, for like every day we did that. So someone tipped us off to get a skate page blank, build a box. Oh, you know what? Someone tipped us off to Skate DIY or DIY Skate, where they have the plans. So we went down that rabbit hole, and we built the box. We stood up an uncut in it. We poured concrete. We let it cure. And in the meantime, you know, my father-in-law being a mason, he's like, you can't put this under pressure for at least 3 weeks. So in that 3 weeks, all we did was study. We joined the Makers Movement on Facebook. Someone tipped us off to that.
Yeah.
And we went to the very beginning, the very first post in the Makers Movement, dude, just scrolling and scrolling.
Wow.
Me and him together looked at every single post and every single comment dating back years, dude. And we would like text each other videos like, check out this video I found on YouTube. Check out this video I found on Facebook. And we seriously nerded out super hard. So while we were waiting that 3 weeks, I had a box of old boards. And so I decided to reshape every single one of them to teach myself how to cut on the line, how to sand with the pencil line, how to use a jigsaw. I didn't know how to use any tools. My father-in-law had every tool you could think of because he's a general contractor.
Yeah.
So we basically just did like penny boards out of all these chipped up boards, right?
Yeah.
And spray painted them and glossed them and like practiced on these boards because we were waiting, right?
Yeah.
And then we couldn't find veneers, and there's this place called Woodcraft, like 30 miles up the road, and they had skateboard veneer packs for $35 per pack. My father-in-law's like, I'm gonna go up to Woodcraft and get us some veneer, boy. So the whole reason was like I wanted to make a board for me and my son JD and my daughter Zoe.
Yeah.
And they were skating with me every day, and I was just like, wouldn't it be cool? So my father-in-law goes and buys the only 2 veneer packs they have. He spends $70 on 2 boards worth of veneer. Then we go to Home Depot. We get Type Bond 2 and a weenie roller, a little weenie roller.
The little ones.
And my friend Pete from Joss Skateboards is like, you don't need a press, dude. You can get like 4 2x4s and 4 2x4s and all thread, and then just crank it with a crescent wrench and a star pattern, like tuning your snare drum. Well, all right, we got it. So we glued up the boards, and we did one in that spar press or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And we shaped it, and I didn't use the router on it because I was scared shitless of it.
Oh yeah.
So for the first 6 months, I was routing my edges with a palm center with 100 grit.
I've been there.
I was cutting on the pencil line because I didn't know any better. My dad's like, no, an 1/8 inch off the pencil line, and then sand. So like I was cutting on the pencil line and having to like reshape in real time like a sculptor. And it would take forever to shape a board, but I didn't care. I was happy as can be, dude. It was like each board was like a fingerprint. I mean, fast forward to now, I got router templates and a table router I made out of like scrap wood, and you know, like I can make a board. And I mean, if it's for a team rider, I can have a board ready to skate in less than an hour. If it's for sale, obviously longer than that. Yeah. But for my team riders, I'm just like, you need a board? All right, dude. By the time you get here, the gloss will be dry enough to put grip tape on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the pandemic hit, and we were on lockdown. And after we pressed that first one, I went out of town for a week with my family. When I came home, my dad had a wooden press built out of scrap wood, and this is and we pressed our first board in that press on New Year's Day, 2020, and that was my son's board. And that wooden press would like break every like 3 boards. We would have to like replace something, and then we'd put more metal. By the time we were done, it looked like just metal on metal on metal and like cobbled together. But what we learned was when you shore up one weak spot, it finds another weak spot. Right. And when you shore up that weak spot, it finds another. And then we end up making steel presses. But when that pandemic hit, we were stuck inside. And so I'd go to his house every day, and we glue up 3 boards. We started putting 3 boards in those molds, and we were breaking molds like crazy because it's a wooden press that does this.
Oh yeah.
And so we were cracking molds. We'd like 30 boards, another mold gone, and then we would cast another one. And then once we got the steel press going, I ended up sourcing a wooden CNC cut, and I'm not going to say their name because they're idiots. They cut it backwards, and they made me wait forever and just kept saying 2 more weeks for like 4 months after collecting my money. And that's when I contacted you and started working with you. And I haven't looked back since. But yeah, when we hit the gas on it during the pandemic, all the skate shops were out of boards. All the skateboard companies' websites were out of boards. There were boards stuck in ships going around, the ocean because they couldn't come in and park and unload all those awesome Chinese factory boards that all the killer brands make. and it just exploded. And I was working on boards like 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, and working a full-time job and playing in a band. And it just got better and better and better at it to where I could streamline it. So that's how I got into board making, man. And thank you for all of your support and all your videos. That's why I started making videos, because I wanted to give back, because I basically learned everything from all you guys and from Hard Knocks. I look at failure as a lesson. So like, you can't get upset when you make a mistake. A mistake is a lesson that you learned. And so my dad would call me and be like, how'd it go today in the garage? I'd be like, well, I learned a lot of lessons today. And we both laughed. But yeah, shout out to the Makers Movement. Lou Ross was a big help. Sam Koch at Life Skateboards, big help. Corey at Legend Skateboards, Pete Haggy at Joss Skateboards. Of course, you took phone calls with me, and I'd be like, I want a tail with 20 degrees and a nose with 21 degrees and a little kick concave. And okay, I gotta go. You're talking too much. But I was stoked to be able to make a how to build a mold video, and from the forms I bought from you, and be able to try to like give you some plugs too, as a thank you for everything that you've done for me.
I
teaching me how to
appreciate that
board.
so much. I mean,
Yeah.
those videos are great, and yeah, concrete is like one of the few materials of molds like I haven't made anything from, and yeah, that video is just great, and so many people. It's just I know it's helping so many people. Your videos are super helpful, and I was curious, like Manak Skates does feel like it's more than just a board company. Like
It's a
how would you describe
lifestyle.
it? Yeah, yeah. Like what how would you describe Manak Skates? Like what is Manak Skates?
Um, to me, it's freedom of expression because I haven't been playing music much, and so this has kind of taken its place for a creative outlet. Um, you know, making something out of nothing. Like all of our tools are like pretty much like handmade, or stuff you'd get at the hardware store. Just getting creative with ramp scraps because we built almost this entire wood shop during COVID when we couldn't even go to Home Depot because we didn't know what was going on. We were scared to even go outside,
Yeah.
And I had just redone my ramp, and I'm so stoked that I kept every bit of wood in the side yard. So when I started screen printing, I went to and ripped down some 2x4s. When I needed to make a screen print jig, I found a sheet of plywood from the deck and cut it into a jig. Like, I still have stuff from that ramp on the side. I don't ever buy wood because I had so much laying around. I figured out how to like recycle and reuse. So like we're very sustainable and recycle everything. Like even like our screens, the kickstands are made from skateboard cutoffs. My wife got me a lathe for Christmas. Thank you, Mandy. And I've been using the cutoffs and laminating the cutoffs into blocks and turning spindles and stuff. So it's like we use the whole buffalo here,
Yeah. I love that.
And my dad has been like, I wouldn't be able to make boards if it wasn't for him. Like he taught me how to use all the tools. He taught me, he's still teaching me. What's funny though is now he comes over to the house. He used to always have to bring tools because I was completely useless before building skateboard. All I had was tool. So like the sink would be broken, call dad. Something would be broken, call dad. And he'd be all, "Where's your tools?" And I'd hand him a skate T tool. And he'd be like, "Fuck." Now he comes over and like I have all the tools because like all the board sales, we would put back. We'd buy more materials, and what was left over, we'd just buy more tools. So now, like whenever he comes over, he doesn't have to bring tools anymore. So he's so stoked. He's so like proud that he like taught his boy. Like I'm his only son, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like he taught his boy how to be like self-sustainable. So, like when something clogs in the house now, like I go and I grab my tools and I call him and go, "Dad, I fixed it." And he's all, "That's my boy." The washing machine started leaking water. The dishwasher started getting clogged. I'll call him and tell him what's going on. I'll be all, "I think it's this." He's like, "Try doing that. Try doing this." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'll call him back. "It worked, Dad." And he's all, "That's my boy." So my wife and my kids have been like a massive, like, I wouldn't be able to do it without them either. My daughter was helping me screen print when we first started. She was helping me shrink wrap. My wife was like looking into different places to get merchandise to print on. Sometimes she goes rogue and like 100 water bottles will show up with our logo on it. And she's like, "I saw a good deal. So like we can get mounted there." And so she's really good at being proactive and coming up with ideas and like getting girls tops. And she's even screen printed some shirts for us. My son, I give him the hand sander. I'm like, "Get to work, boy."
Love it.
So like, yeah, it's pretty cool. So it's definitely a family thing. So if I had to sum up what we are, is we're 3 generations making skateboards in the garage, caveman style, with minimal tools and minimal resources, but lots of love, care, and attention to detail.
Love it. I love it. What advice would you give yourself like 5 or 10 years ago? Or I guess you could choose like whatever, however long ago, maybe it was 3 years ago or a year ago, like just really
What advice would I give myself 10 years ago? Would be stop drinking and stop fucking around. I got sober in 2017. My biological dad passed away a few years before, and I just went downhill like really quick, and my drinking created a lot of drama in my family. You know, family members weren't speaking to each other and all that kind of stuff. And it got to the point to where like my marriage was suffering, everything was suffering. And I saw my biological dad go to AA and go to meetings. And the most stubborn alcoholic I've ever met in my entire life stayed sober until he died.
Wow. And
so when I knew, you know, I was sick of digging, there was somewhere that I could get better. And, you know, just one thing led to another, and I was at a loss, and I was about to lose everything that was important to me. So I just went to a meeting, and I haven't had a drink since. Wow. That's what gave me the strength to try to make skateboards, because before I wouldn't have tried something, because I had to be like really good at everything, otherwise I didn't want to do it. And sobriety taught me that you're going to suck at everything at first, and that's okay. And that every mistake is a lesson. And the more mistakes you make, the more you learn and the better you get. So it taught me to like drop my pride and my ego and just be like, I know I'm going to suck at this, but I really want to do it. And, you know, a lot of idle hands when you're not sitting around with a beer and a smoke and a bong next to you all day, you know?
Yeah.
So 2 years sober, a year and a half sober, that's when I started making boards.
Wow. Congrats on that. That's huge. I mean,
thank you.
That's a hard thing to do. So awesome job there. And
well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have lots of help.
Yeah. That's great.
Family, other people in the program, you know, the universe, whoever is out there helps me.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is or who it is, and I don't need to know, but I know that, you know, if I ask for help, I didn't drink today, so there's a win. But yeah, that's what I would tell myself.
Cool.
10 years ago, because I probably would have started making skateboards a lot earlier.
I love that.
But everything happened for a reason. I started making them at the right time. The lockdown, right before the lockdown, is like everybody was looking for a new hobby, something to pass the time, and like I was so like hooked on working with tools for the first time and making boards that like I drove my neighbors nuts, dude. We did everything in the backyard, and my neighbor came over like pretty drunk and screamed at me like pretty loud in front of. I had company over, and I'm sitting back there with a router doing like 20 boards at once. You know how?
Oh yeah, that's
yeah. So he was in his backyard like entertaining guests, and he's like, "We can't even hear ourselves. We turned up the radio, and all we hear is your router screeching." You know, I'd get a new tool like a bandsaw, and I'd be like, "I'm cutting 20 boards today," and it's like nails on a chalkboard. I don't know if you have a bandsaw, but like it squeals and screeches. Then I made the router table out of a fish tank stand. Again, dude, lockdown. Anytime my wife and I, we'd walk around the block, if I saw something out on the curb, I'd be like, ooh, I could make screens out of that. Ooh, I could make a table out of that. Ooh, I could. And she's like, dude, you're turning into like a junkyard, dude. So she was about to throw out a fish tank stand. And I look at that and I'm like, hey, Dad, do you have any plexiglass or wood? He's like, yeah, I got plexiglass. I was like, I think I found our router table. And it's this wide by this wide, like waist high, and it has a door so you can put fish food under it, right? So we went and bought a plunge router from Home Depot. We mounted the plastic on top of the fish tank stand because it's open on top, so you can put a fish tank in it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a box with no top. So we put a top on it, reinforced it with some 2x4 so it wouldn't bend, and drilled a hole in it. And then found on Amazon those like 2.5-inch, you know, flush trim router bits with the bearing on them. Yeah. And we mounted it to that and plugged it into the wall, and we're like, fuck, that thing's scary, dude. Like now, whatever, me. But at the time, I was like, I don't even want to touch this thing. Yeah. And that was our first router table, and I'm using that in the backyard, doing like 20 decks, back-to-back consecutive, dude. My neighbors, poor neighbors, and using rattle cans of spray gloss. Can you imagine what it smelled like if you were in your backyard next to me and using rattle cans on 20 boards, front and back, 2 coats each, 3 coats each. Because by the time you're done with the 20th board with it on a drying rack with a fan, you're ready to start again. So there's just a plume cloud of rattle can like mist for hours on end, dude. Like my neighbors hate me. So we moved it into the recording studio because I'm not using the music stuff anymore. Okay. So my ISO booth for my guitars, we have like an ISO booth that you put the amp in, you shut the door and you plug the cord into the wall, and then a cord into the other side of the wall. I wired up on my walls. So then that way you're in the live room back here with the drums with headphones on. So all the bands got headphones on, the drums have mics on them, and then we have 2 ISO booths that have a bass amp and a guitar amp. So none of that noise bleeds into the drum mics. But in our headphones, it sounds like a full mix, right? So we're all rocking together in the same room. We ended up making that the cutting room. So we call it the death box. And we put the presses next to the drum kit and the guitar amps, and then a drying rack right next to the other guitar amps. So that's like when you see video of me working in the shop, you see like a Les Paul and an SG and a Fender Strat and a P bass and a Marshall and a Fender Twin and all these like bitchin' like instruments in sawdust and gloss overspray and glue. Like, yeah, so, but it's soundproof. It's 4 layers of sheetrock. Cool. Like, I don't know if you can see that door right there, but that's 1, 2, and on the other side there's another 2. So there's 4 layers of sheetrock and Durarock and air gaps all around. So I'm in the control room right now. This is where we mix the records and stuff. Sweet. So,
oh, that's cool.
So yeah, neighbors hate me, but everything's inside now.
That's so cool. I didn't expect to ask this question, but I want to now. Do you get more stoked about building boards or like building tools to make boards or things like that? Because it seems like you do a lot of like hacking together just random stuff to make what you need.
Yeah, I mean, if I did a workshop walkthrough with you, you'd just be giggling like, you what? That's it. I'll be like, yeah, my spray booth is I got a Lazy Susan bearing for $4.99 on Amazon, then some scrap wood, and then pieces come up with some painter's tape. You put the board on it, you spray it, you spin it, you spray it, and then you put it on the board rack that's made from ramp scraps. And yeah, everything is like, that's a hard question to answer. It depends on the day.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, you know, I make screens. Like, there's always something to do, whether it's making new screens, stretching screens, reclaiming screens, burning films, working with artists, getting wood, sorting out all the wood. You know, you get like 100 decks worth of veneer and you want to face them all up and get the colors right and stack them up all nice. And then, you know, my presses handle 4 boards at a time, you know, and if you're doing 2 presses, 8 boards every 4 hours, but you do it from like 6 a.m. till like 2 a.m., you can get like 32 boards a day. Then you got to stack them somewhere and then start shaping and then screen printing. And I got all these screens and it's all homemade equipment. Like, I don't have any badass stuff, dude. 100% homemade. Even my screws, they're in this 5-gallon bucket from screws I pulled out of the half pipe. So like, like the most efficient skateboard workshop I think there is, because nothing is paid for the most part. All my workbenches are decks from the old ramp, you know, 1-inch plywood. And yeah, even like when I find hinges or something where I take it apart and there's hinges, I take the hinges and put them in my workbench. So then like if I want to make a table, you put hinges on it so it can fall back into the wall when you're not using it, and when you are using it, it hinges up, and then the legs hinge out. So when you're not using it, you kick the legs in and then fold it back into the wall, and it's like it doesn't exist. I don't know. I watch lots of YouTube, dude. Like every day, every night. I can't sleep. I watch how to use a lathe, how to turn a bowl, how to get screws out of stuff that strip, how to, you know, just 10 tricks on woodworking, 10 tips, you know, tools to avoid. Like, I was not interested in any of that shit, dude. And then like I don't even know who I am anymore, dude.
That's so sick. I feel like that's what skating's just about, like the DIY, like make the most of what
it's another trick, dude.
Yeah, it's another trick.
Yeah. how do we make this table we found behind in a parking lot behind into a wall ride?
Yeah.
Well, we put this and there's an old TV, put the old TV under it and it props it up. Like we're skaters. We figure out like a path through anything. Like, how are we going to get to skate that one thing that's not made for skating? That's awesome. How are we going to get in there? We got to bucket out water. How are we going to, like, no matter what there is, we're hopping over the fence, cutting a hole in the fence, climbing under the fence, cutting a lock on the fence. Like, we're always figuring out a way to get what we want without any money, And same with being in a punk rock band. Like, you don't have any money. You don't have any record label. You figure out ways to put out your own records, print your own shirts, make your own merch, put up your own flyers, make your own website. Like, that whole DIY ethic from playing in punk rock bands and rock and roll bands since I was a teenager, carries right over to DIY skateboard making. And we all share tips. That's what's rad about the board making community is like, it's open source, dude. Everyone shares. Everyone like takes the time to like help each other. Like one of the main reasons I made that YouTube channel was because I was getting so many DMs about how I do certain things. I'd be like, all right, I think I should make a video about it. So when someone would say, hey, how do you make a skateboard screen? I would go to YouTube, copy the link and drop it and go, watch this. And if you have more questions, I'm happy to help, but watch this first. Yeah. And so then I'd get questions about how to edge route. And I just it'd be like 2 hours back and forth with somebody because I would always take the time to respond. All over the world. There's guys over in Germany that were asking me about how to screen print, and I'm like, you got a minute right now? And he's like, yeah. And I'd hit like the video dial button on Instagram. And I'm like, what's up, dude? Here, I got some boards set up right now. I'll show you how to screen print. And he's like, really? I'm like, yeah. Set up on a tripod. I'm like, all right, this is called flooding the screen. And I'm like, working with him. And the guy now is a better screen printer than me, dude. Like, he's killing it. I've helped so many people with certain things, and I see their work and I'm just like, dude. Or like I teach them how to make a screen print jig and their jigs look so much better and they'll like add their little 2 cents and I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Like, it's so rad to see people that like we help people without expecting anything in return because other people helped us. And people are so shocked when we reply to their DMs. I'm sure you get the same thing. Like, oh my God, thank you for replying. It's like, yeah, the factories, they keep it tight-lipped. They don't tell you anything. They don't post videos. They don't want anyone to know. It's all secrets. They're all paranoid. They're worried about it. But DIY board makers are just like, you want to make boards? Dude, I'll jump on a call right now. Like, I'll help you. So, I mean, there's no threat. There's so much room for us, right? So it's not like it's threatening my livelihood because I have a day job, like these big factories, they have a lot more on the line, right? So us board makers, we're just stoked someone wants to talk about board making because there's not enough of us. You're like, yeah, dude, totally, let's hop on a FaceTime. And I've made a lot of friends just because I gave something without expecting anything in return, because you and many others gave to me without realizing it on YouTube and taught me. So it's only right that, I pay it forward and return the favor to other people and try to encourage people that it's really not that hard, dude. You just gotta not be afraid to make mistakes and you'll be fine. That's it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and have passion. And what I find is anybody that I've seen start from nothing and start making boards, it consumes you, dude. It's so addictive. Like, you can't put it down. So just to share that stoke, it's just like teaching someone how to drop in at the skate park. Do you see them scared or struggling? And then you see them again 2 months later and they're doing frontside grinds. You're like, no way. It's that same skater ethic of just like, you see someone struggling, they didn't ask for help, but you're like, hey, do you mind if I give you a pointer? And they're like, yeah, totally. I didn't want to ask, but yeah. We're like that at the skate park too. We see someone or like a kid in the way, maybe they're on a scooter or rollerblades or whatever. You don't got to be a dick to them. They just don't know. You just talk to them and go, hey buddy, so I want you to take a look at this. See how that guy is starting over there and he ends up over there? He's going to be right here. So by you standing in that area, we just want to make sure nobody gets hurt. I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want you to get hurt. And when you kneel down on one knee and explain that to a kid, they change. But if you don't, then you just get frustrated and they continue snaking and dropping in on you and then being clueless. Dude, they weren't born with like skateboard etiquette in their head. They're on a scooter. They're like 10 years old, you know? And the old me, like in my 20s, I would have been like, fuck you, kid, get the fuck out of here. And then skate by with a beer in my hand and yell at the parent, get your kid out of here. It's not a fucking playground. But like, you know, you get older, you know, you have kids of your own. And you know, that's skateboarding is get down on one knee and just like be all, hey, buddy, we're all trying not to get hurt here. Yeah. And let me give you a few tips. And the parents see that kind of compassion and they're like, thank you, you know, most of the time. But like, I've seen fights at the skate park where a kid gets mistreated by like a 20-year-old kid and the parents, you know, come over and get in their face and there's pushing and sometimes swinging. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. And that the board making community is like, you know, open arms and helping people. And like, I love sharing on the Makers Movement forum and the DIY Board Builders forum on Facebook because those posts inspired me. Mm-hmm. And so my hope is that I'm showing people that you don't need a bunch of money. You just need like a good work ethic and just not be afraid to make mistakes. You're going to make them, dude. Just get over yourself.
Yeah. I love that. I think we're going to wrap up here soon. This has been awesome. It has been an hour. I don't know if you're at a hard stop, but I did have like one more question I wanted to ask you, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. I'm curious, like, what advice do you think you would give yourself in the you of right now in 5 years? Like, if you could look ahead 5 years and be like, man, what advice did I need, you know, right now in 2023?
Chill out. Since Christmas, I've been like kind of chilling out a little bit because it started like taking over everything. Like board making was like the new drinking for me. So I just need to like chill out. I've gotten my process down to the point to where I can hit the gas for like a few days, like pretty hard. Yeah. And then like have inventory and put on my website and then just like chill and do things around the house, like fixing up things with my wife. Me and my wife been like fixing up the kitchen and fixing up the yard and like, you know, using these tools I bought for making skateboards to like fix up our house and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So like, it's been nice not being in the garage till 2 a.m. every night for 7 days a week, you know? Like, I like going to bed at the same time my wife does, you know, instead of her like going to bed alone. That's shitty, making her do that, you know?
Yeah.
So I tell myself like, chill out, work hard when you work, but you know, also I have a day job, man. The skateboard thing isn't everything. At one point, the goal was to eventually make the skateboard thing like the full-time thing, like get a warehouse and quit the day job. Like that was the pipe dream, you know, like being in a band, like someday I'm going to tour the world and I won't have to work.
Yeah.
And then I realized that could come, but it'd come at consequences that I don't feel are necessary. And so I'm just going to kind of chill and make boards when I make boards and sell them when I sell them and make sure my team riders have boards. And yeah, just
cool.
Try to do more around the house and make sure, you know, we have a home that we're stoked on, you know? So I'm going to use that board making, all that stuff. All the stuff I learned making boards is now teaching me how to fix my house.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
So slow down.
I like that. All right. Is there anything else you want to briefly mention before we cruise off? Obviously, any plugs? Like, I'll get some links. I'll ask you for some links for whatever you want to plug to. But anything you want to shout out? Any shameless plugs you want to mention?
I want to say shout out to my wife and kids. for helping me with this and putting up with me during this. They're massive supporters, massive help. There wouldn't be a Manak Skates without them. And also my dad, Jay. Without him, I wouldn't even know how to use a screw gun, dude. He comes over and helps me glue boards. Whenever I need to build something, he comes over to give me tips, watch me mess up, and just be there for moral support while I'm doing it. You know, he's the concrete master. He makes those awesome molds that you cut out of foam for us. So, you know, my family, super big deal. And shout out to the makers movement, the DIY board makers, you know, everybody out there that's sharing the open source tech. You know, you, Lou, Sam, you know, everyone in the makers movement. If you're interested in learning how to make boards, go on Facebook and put in the makers movement. You don't have to be a member to read the posts. You just have to be a member to post. But that's a great place to go and learn from all of our mistakes. We all share our trials and tribulations. Shameless plugs. Check out my band, Jonny Manak and the Depressives. Go to johnnymanak.com or Spotify or any of the streaming services. Just put in Jonny Manak and the Depressives. There's like 6 or 7 full-length albums you could check out. And manakskates.com, any social media at manakskates. And, you know, go to our website and buy something.
Awesome. That's great. I feel like I have a million more questions.
Shout out Bo. Shout out Bo for his YouTube channel. Me and my dad watched all your stuff. We wouldn't have our own proprietary concave if you wouldn't have jumped on phone calls with me. So people are like, "Can I get an uncle to make a mold?" I'm like, "Not off my mold."
Yeah.
Skate page, dude.
Yeah. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And yeah, I feel like I have a million more questions I want to ask you, but you know, just I think this is a good starting point. And yeah, I really hope people check you out. And you've got a million good videos, awesome music, awesome boards. So yeah, everyone should go check out Manak Skates. Thanks so much, Jonny, for making the time to chat, and we'll end it there.
I hope you enjoyed this interview, and to learn more about Jonny, check out the links in the video description.